Hello and Merry Christmas. Happy holidays, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this week's new episode of the Xbox Lunch Break Special. I'm your host, Mr. BoomStick XL. And as you can see right now, it's me and Fuzzy Belvedere. I actually have some footage of course, Call of Duty doing, just me kicking ass and taking names. So we're going to put that footage up for you. But ladies and gentlemen, happy Monday. Hopefully you had a great gaming weekend. I got a chance to nearly prestige for the second time in Call of Duty, which I'm very excited about. Found a couple of new guns that I really do like that I have to kind of just max out and really get the feels for. Played some Ball X Pit, which was incredible. I know people have been talking about this game. I tried it originally. It didn't connect with me for some reason. And I started playing on the Xbox Ally X while me and Mrs. Boom were kind of just chilling and watching our J dramas, as or our K dramas, I should say, that we normally do. And I put about 2.5 hours in, and yeah, it's really good. It is really, really good. But folks, we have an absolutely outstanding show. Look, on the heels of Expedition 33's basically sweep of the Game Awards, well, we have a story here that any OG Xbox fan, or Xbox 360 fan, I should say, is going to love. And of course, we're going to be getting into whether or not Gears of War E-Day is going to show up at the Developer Direct. And I got a feeling it absolutely will. But Fuzzy Belvedere, good morning, kind sir. Or now, well, good afternoon now. How are you feeling?
Good afternoon. Glad to be here with you, man. It's been a pretty good weekend. I've been falling into Diablo 4 ever since
Okay.
they released the Paladin. Got a pretty decent build right now with the Blessed Hammer and Blessed Shield. So kind of doing that right now. But man, it's been a pretty good month, I guess you could say, as far as gaming news. And now we got to look forward to next month for the Dev Direct. So we got a lot of stuff to talk about.
Yeah, indeed we do. Look, we should be getting another guest with us. That would be the Chaos Lounge, as he's been here many, many times before. He is, of course, in the UK and he is currently working. So normally we usually go about 30 minutes, give or take, and he was able to get his way home and pop in. And of course, hopefully, he'll be around to kind of, help us hash out some of these incredible topics to get into. But Fuzzy Belvedere, I do want to open up with the first topic of the show. Now, this one, folks, is very interesting. Now, Sandfall Interactive is no stranger to the spotlight, thanks to Expedition 33's incredible wins at the Game Awards. They basically shut out Sony PlayStation's 19 nominations in a single bound. And again, I'm not trying to be facetious here. And as you can see, I haven't really, piled on the rabbit, so to speak, but yeah, 19 nominations, no wins. That's pretty insane when you consider it. And then you go look at what, happened with Nintendo. They had a couple, they got two. Xbox had 10, they got two. PlayStation 19, they got a big old goose egg. And that just goes to show you, and this is my heart of hearts feelings. They were shoved into these categories by Jeff Keighley and whoever else. I know that there's gonna be people that are gonna tell me, no, Boom, no, it's properly done. It's done by professionals that sit down and vote from everybody. Look. You can tell me water is wet and still dry me the hell out. So, look, at the end of the day, it was a triumph of triumphs, is the best way to put what Sandfall did. It is the little studio that could. They did something that when you just read the tea leaves, it should not have worked, Fuzzy Belvedere. Okay, the way that they found people on SoundCloud and on Discord, and they have people that are directing a game that never did directions before. It's insane. But somehow or another, they made a JRPG that everybody loved. And everybody loved it so much that it broke every single record from the Game Awards before. Right now, we all know that at the Game Awards, the standing champion was The Last of Us 2 with 7 noms. Well, they actually had more noms, but they had 7 trophy wins. Well, obviously, Sandfall did what they did, and they took home a bunch of them. But that's not actually why we are here, Fuzzy Belvedere. We are here to talk about a story that really did fly under the radar. Now, if you are someone in this chat that appreciates Xbox's history, right? Now that history is going to be defined uh differently for each and every person that you ask the question to. Like my path to Xbox greatness is going to be different, especially when you start talking about people's favorite games. Well, there is a particular game, Fuzzy Belvedere, that everyone continues to talk about, and well, Sandfall Interactive's director actually name dropped himself. And I'm talking about Lost Odyssey. Lost Odyssey is a game that came out in the Xbox 360, was defined as one of the finest JRPGs of that generation for Xbox. You start talking about Blue Dragon, you start talking about Eternal Sonata, which is another really great one that a lot of people didn't play. But Lost Odyssey, at least for me, is probably in my top 10 of all time favorite RPGs. And we're going back decades because, I'm an old man. So you got to understand that my RPG love goes all the way back to the NES days. But Lost Odyssey is a game that we have heard people talk about. And, look, this is an era where we're starting to see developers go back, revisit older titles, and in some cases, bring them back in a way that in our minds at the time were the greatest looking RPGs and games of all time. I'm talking about Oblivion is a perfect example of that. Now, you go back to the Xbox 360 days, and when we saw those graphics, Fuzzy Belvedere, we were all blown away. We're like, my God, this is the greatest thing ever. People put 3, 4, 5, 6, 1,000 hours into that game, and then they had it literally come out, and it's redone in a way that is respectful. It brings back all of the feels that you had as a gamer, as an RPG, as a Bethesda fan, right? If you are an old school Bethesda fan, well, you obviously Oblivion is what it is, right? It's as old school as you can get, Fuzzy Belvedere. Well, I have some notes here. And you know what? Let me bring up the story here because this is very, very interesting. This is a story that I pulled, ladies and gentlemen, from rockpapershotgun.com. And the story is a little old, but it's a story that came out, Fuzzy, and kind of flew a little bit under the radar. No one really talked about this. Well, the story was written by Edwin Evans Thrillwell. He is the news editor for Rock Paper Shotgun. Now, this is, of course, going to be added to the show notes. If you want to read it for yourself, please, by all means, give this article a click. I think you're going to dig it. Well, the header goes on to say, and I quote, "Justice for Lost Odyssey," says Clair Obscur, creative director, and he calls for a remaster of the cult classic from 2007. And the Sandfall boss goes on to say this, quote, "One of the best games of its kind." Now, I'm going to read directly from the article for context, ladies and gentlemen. Then we're going to bring in Fuzzy Belvedere to get his take. And I'm going to give you mine because I do think this is an absolutely incredible opportunity for Sandfall Interactive, and more importantly, Xbox. Xbox Game Studios could really do something super special. And I think and again, this is me just spitballing here, this is the type of announcement that you would bring for your 25th anniversary next year. I don't know when this could happen or if it is even going to happen, ladies and gentlemen, but my God, would it not be a story if it did? Well, let me read from the article. Goes on to say here, or Edwin goes on to say here in his article, Clair Obscur Expedition 33 creative director G. Broche of Sandfall Interactive would very much like to play a remaster of Lost Odyssey. The mournful 2007 released Xbox 360 RPG from Final Fantasy creator Horinobu Sakaguchi and development studio Mistwalker. He feels the game was cruelly dinged by reviewers of that era for adhering to certain conventions. He also reckons it'll have been done better if it had released for hardware other than the Xbox 360, which trying to make inroads among Japanese consumers at the time. And we know, Fuzzy Belvedere, that did not work. Well, it goes on to say here, quote, from, of course, the Expedition 33 director, it became a cult classic because few people played it, as it was available only on Xbox 360, while its core audience was probably more used to PlayStation consoles. Broche goes on to tell Eurogamer's Ed Nightingale in a retrospective interview published earlier today, quote, but that core audience who did play it loved it. The critical reception at the time was very unfair, in my opinion, as the game was criticized for being, quote, old school at the time, where it felt like every game that was not an open world was viewed as old school by the Western press. He goes on to say, finally, I did not share that opinion at all, and its linear structure, coupled with a world map, an amazing story, and fantastic music, made it one of the best games of its kind. Now, where this is very interesting, and I look, folks, look, this is me just fanboy dreaming, right? I'm gonna put my best bot forward, and I'm gonna tell you that this is the kind of story that if you are an Xbox purist, if you're an Xbox fan, you don't have to be a fanboy or a bot. If you are just an Xbox fan and you had the consoles from inception to where we are in the market right now, a game like Lost Odyssey, even if you are not the biggest RPG fan, would be one hell of a story to come back. Just think about this for a second, Fuzzy Belvedere. This has the making of one of those dreamlike stories that either will never happen because it's too good to be true, or one of those things that it just happens and it's just magic. Now, Sandfall Interactive, they put out their first game in Expedition 33. It has won awards, not only at the Game Awards, but pretty much everywhere. That's a really big deal. They are now what I consider a sought after studio that you want to work with. Their name carries a lot of weight simply because they delivered on a game that, by all rights and all accounts, ladies and gentlemen, should not have worked, and it did. And it did to great degree. Well, I'm not saying that Xbox should buy Sandfall Interactive. I'm not suggesting that at all. What I'm suggesting is they could potentially work together. And we know that they're a passionate group of developers because the work is there, ladies and gentlemen. You see it for yourself. And when you hear the creative director say that he wants justice for this game and that he would absolutely love if they brought it back, well, this is where I say, why not make that offer? Now, I don't know some of the schematics. Does Xbox own the IP? Is that not something that Mistwalker owns? I honestly don't know. and I could not find out. I tried. Otherwise, you know how I am about doing the work for the show. I do a lot. I could not find out who owned it, quick enough to be able to say so. So if anybody has that information, please by all means drop it into the chat, and we'll be more than happy to read it aloud. But if this was something that Mistwalker wanted to do, because I mean, are they even around anymore, Mistwalker? I don't even know. I mean, they could still be around, just not making anything. But this is an IP that I think a lot of people would gravitate to. But see, this is where it gets even more interesting, Fuzzy Belvedere. In that story or that blurb that I read, one of the critiques from the writer, and it was true, the game was only available on the Xbox 360 at the time, so its audience, especially in Japan, was a bit narrow because the Xbox 360 didn't sell, right? But we're in an age now where a game from Microsoft Game Studios, whether it be partnered or whether it be through first party, we know has a really solid chance of going to PC, going to Xbox, and now going to PlayStation and potentially Switch too. This is one of those situations where they could remake this game from scratch with modern aesthetics, give it a 2026 2027 look and feel, make it modern. I think this would be a smash hit just based on the fact that it's Lost Odyssey coming back, that's being remade. But when you add into the mix that Sandfall Interactive could be the studio that, because they're passionate, or at least the creative director is passionate about seeing this game return, I think he can get the entire team passionate enough to want to work on this game. I want to get your thoughts on this. Chat, jump in and let me see what you think.
Yeah, if Xbox has learned anything from some of their past partnerships and things along those lines, I would say this is the perfect time to partner with Sandfall. I know they did a deal as far as for Game Pass, but having them in the service for their debut with Expedition 33. But it goes to show that they kind of proved themselves with their first game out the gate kind of deal. So having them, if it's possible for Microsoft to license the IP to them, which I think we looked at this a while ago. I think they have like publishing rights and some licensing rights, but I don't know if the other studio is still under any other ownership or if it's been disbanded or closed. I believe it was closed or something, but I would say it's a good idea to have this caliber of a studio work on one of your earlier IPs if they have the right to license that. That would be, I wouldn't say a guaranteed hit, but at least it guarantees that you'll have a lot of people's attention because Sandfall is now going to be that developer that people are looking for what their next IP or next game is like and see how it stands up against Expedition 33. And if you go with a beloved classic IP, I think that would be a good option, especially considering how well they did on their first game. I've seen how Microsoft partnered with Bloober Team for a few games, like they partnered with them for Medium, and I think they may have, I don't know if they partnered with them for Blair Witch Project, but looking at how well that studio has developed or grown over time with like Silent Hill and stuff, that's one of those things where maybe they partner with them at a later date as well on some sort of horror based type title. But yeah, as far as Sandfall going with like a turn-based RPG type of deal, I think that would be the best way for them to kind of go as far as an upcoming title that they don't have to worry about their first party studios working on. If that studio or if Sandfall already has a bit of a passion to work on that, you don't have to worry about all of the financials, which seem to trip up some of the other or previous partner deals. So I think it's a worthwhile venture for them. We'll see if they do have in fact the license or the right to license that IP, and maybe in 5-6 years, give or take, we'll see what the fruits of that labor is. I'd be excited to see it.
Yeah, when you say 5 or 6 years, and first of all, that would kill me if it took that long to get that game out, because we could play it right now. Obviously, it has a little added graphical fidelity, right? Because obviously it does get the bump from being playing on the Series X or the S as opposed to on the Xbox 360. And we know it does get the HDR boost, it gets the FPS boost. That's great. And and look, I'm gonna be honest with you folks. I own the game. It's in storage. I haven't popped the disc in. I know I just downloaded it because I own it digitally as well. And I just reinstalled it because I'm like, man, should I play this? Well, no, actually, I have to. I actually just recently I have to restart because I had to have it re-downloaded. I don't know what happened with my Expedition 33. It might have been I needed room and I got rid of it. I deleted it because I just wasn't playing it, and now I have 6 terabytes of space. So now I'm re-downloading everything. I'm just about to get out of the underwater level. I'm gonna play through the game. I'm probably gonna play through the holidays because I really want to beat this game. I know everyone I've spoken to says, Boom, when you get to the end of chapter one, people are just in their feels. They said it was so great. So now I have to, now we have to, and not because they won do I want to play it. I've beaten everything that I want to play. So now I'm gonna make time for this game. But again, chat, I think that this is one of those stories. It's such a feel-good story for a multitude of reasons. And that's probably me just nerding out. Is this actually gonna happen? Probably not. Right? Like I know maybe somebody, maybe like a Phil Spencer, because I think he's name dropped the game before. And he knows how important it is to the Xbox community, how big of an deal this RPG is. Look, again, it's money, folks. Does the dollars make sense? Well, I mean, you're not trying to make it an Xbox exclusive anymore because we know that they're not doing that. Now, maybe games like Forza Horizon 6 are going to release on Xbox and PC first. I mean, we do kind of know that just based on what we've heard so far. Um, they'll eventually come to PlayStation. The path that they're walking. Okay, big deal.
Yeah.
It bothered us in the beginning, sure, a bunch of OGs like me, but that's just the way they're walking now. Okay, fine, whatever. But
Well, one quick thing I just wanted to make mention with,
please.
remember how much we were surprised when they partnered with Team Ninja, but we kind of heard some back and forth with some of the people from Team Ninjas making mention that, oh, it'd be cool to work together, and they were making all those trips to Japan.
Yep.
Considering that Lost Odyssey, like you said, was mentioned by Phil Spencer, I think this was like just before the Activision acquisition or something. I would like to see, I have a feeling that there's probably something going on in the background. Like we've been surprised by some, back and forth, like with Sega. They had the Super Game partnership, which I'll get more into some of that a little bit later with one of these topics, but I would not be surprised. I think there's probably a better chance than of it happening than a chance of it not happening, kind of thing.
Well, I mean, obviously, they worked together to get this game into Xbox Game Pass, and we know that it was a big success for the team because Brosh actually publicly thanked Xbox. So I want to read a quote here, just so you know that there is a relationship that they could further build on. Because one of the things that a lot of us saw, especially from the PlayStation community, the toxic MFs that we don't name by name, kind of like uh, um, the guy from Harry Potter that no one likes to mention his name because they're afraid that it's going to bring doom, but we don't mention those people's names because we don't need that kind of smoke, and I'm not here to embarrass anybody. Have your opinion and be an a-hole about it, but I ain't going to talk about you. It's fine. But the director of Clair Obscur Expedition 33 says Xbox Game Pass was key to its success. Quote, it helped us reach a lot of players. And I know that we keep hearing, and again, interestingly enough, and I know this really does not have one to do with the other, but a lot of that community was super silent. A lot of witness protection was was put into and enacted or put into place for a lot of these very vocal POSs that just make the community toxic, and why people leave social media. They, look, they their team did not win, and that's just the way it is. It is what it is. But you know who did win? Sandfall Interactive and Expedition 33. They won big. And that's a really big deal. And I just think that, again, it doesn't necessarily have to be announced with a release date or even year. And I think that it would run smoother because the groundwork is there. Now, granted, if you're doing a remake, it's going to be just that. It's going to be remade from the ground up. Now, I don't know what engine they should use. I'm not even going to pretend that to think that I know, but the groundwork is there. They're not writing an original story. The story is what the story is, right? The characters are who they are. The world is there. They simply have to use the blueprints that are in front of them and just remake the game with modern controls, graphics, and do what they did with Expedition 33. And when I say feel good story, it's one of those things that if it were announced in 2026, which is going to be a celebratory year from the 1st of January all the way through December 31st, and everyone that is an Xbox fan is going to be there enjoying and celebrating the 25th anniversary of the brand, of Halo Combat Evolved, the 20th anniversary of Gears of War. I mean, there's a lot going on that year, and there are a lot of games that are being released. But if you, let's say, for instance, in June at the showcase, which is expected to be huge because we might even get a hardware announcement for 27, right? Like you could get an actual physical view of what the hardware is going to be in 27. And again, that's me just speculating, folks. But Fuzzy Belvedere, if this was one of those announcements where they bring Mistwalker up, they bring Sandfall Interactive up, and Phil is there, or Sarah, or Matt, and they make this, you're not sure what's happening, right? Mistwalker comes up, Sandfall comes up, and you're like, what's happening here? What's going on? And then Phil Spencer just shows a logo, Lost Odyssey remake. Bro, do you know that that's the kind of shit that would stop the internet? Like, it would stop the internet in its tracks, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm here for that kind of announcement. Now, granted, what I have predicted is 99.9999% not happening because it's too freaking good to be true. And it's why I should have a job at Microsoft in marketing, because I would make them a lot of money and set them on the right path. But I'm also an old man who is a little long in the tooth, and I don't think they're hiring me. But it's $1 million idea. Go. Yeah. But listen, ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you are enjoying today's conversation. I'm having a blast with it. Again, this is a lot of speculation. It's a bit of a fun one to open up. But you know what, Fuzzy Belvedere? We got to get into the Xbox Developers Direct 2026. This is going to be a jumping off point to one of the biggest years in Xbox's branded history. Why? Well, you just heard me, folks. I already did my spiel, but I'll, reiterate a bit. You're just kind of joining us. The 25th anniversary is happening, and thanks to people like Matt Booty and Phil Spencer and Sarah Bond, we have a path in front of us that is loaded with future hardware, games, and more games from Xbox Game Studios. And one of those games that was confirmed during the Game Awards, but that was not there in any form or fashion, was Gears of War, confirmed for 2026. Now, we kind of all knew this, but the official Gears of War Twitter account talked about it. I want to get your thoughts on this, Fuzzy Belvedere. How big of a deal would it be for it to be there?
Ooh. I would say for the most part, when it comes to like Gears of War E-Day, I would have to believe it's going to be there, unless it's going to be at the June showcase. But I think it winds up just because of timing, even though the anniversary I believe is like September-ish for Gears, I think they release it before June for 26. So I don't know. I think it makes a debut. I don't know who is going to be the last 30 minutes game. Like, you know how they do like the deeper dive for at least one of the titles coming up. I don't know which one of the many titles that we'll probably see will be. I don't think they do the deeper dive on Forza Horizon 6 because I don't think you need to really do that much of a deeper dive. I could see them doing a deeper dive on Fable. They kind of did a behind the curtains kind of thing previously when they made the announcement of the delay, but I think E Day gets the deeper dive at the end of the Dev Direct, primarily because it's in the chronologic, well, not chronologic, but in the sense of the major tent poles, because Fable's been off the shelf for a little bit. I would say Gears is the one that deserves the spotlight as far as at the end of the show, going into more detail, having more gameplay and things like that. But I think it stands a good chance because it's been mentioned by the was it the Twitter account for Gears that it's
Yep.
26.
Yep.
So it's definitely coming next year. Just is it going to be before the June showcase or after? My gut's telling me, even though it goes against the anniversary, it'll be before. And then on the anniversary, they'll probably have some sort of special, whether it be DLC content or some sort of bundle with some of the earlier versions of Gears. If you buy, let's say E-Day, maybe you get one that recent remaster for free or something like that. Who knows? We'll kind of see, but yeah, I think it's the spotlight at the end of the Dev Direct this go around.
So let me introduce some additional context to what Fuzzy's talking about. November has always been a special month for Xbox with its big titles. So we know that November 15th is when Halo Combat Evolved released right alongside the console, right? So the 15th is going to be big, but interestingly enough, it happens to fall on a Sunday this next year. So obviously they're not going to have, a big event on a Sunday. Well, I mean they could, but it's unlikely. Um I'm pretty sure that the 6th of November in 2006 was the release day in North America for Gears of War. So they're not going to do back-to-back releases. They're not going to, try and shoehorn two giant-sized releases into 1 month, right? That's crazy. And you also got to remember, P.S. by the way, as it stands, November 19th is Grand Theft Auto 6. So, right, like these games have to live. Now, I don't think Halo's got to get out of the way, or the celebratory, November 15th has to get out of the way of GTA. I know GTA 6 is going to be a big deal. Actually, based on what we're all hearing through different channels, and it's not just me. I'm not breaking any NDAs or news. It's not going so well over there. It's been reported by numerous sites that, there's strikes, there's work slowage that's been reported. They're protesting outside of the front of the offices for Rockstar for weeks now, maybe even over a month now. So things aren't going so well for them. I don't know if all the turmoil is going to slow and potentially delay this game into 27. But I'm gonna be honest with you. If I'm Xbox, I'm praying to the gaming guys that it does, because then they have all of November to themselves, and then of course they could really celebrate the 25th anniversary. But bringing Gears back into the conversation, again, folks, I'm an evidence based conversation kind of a guy. You know that, right? I consistently say that. So in the same or around the same time, Fuzzy Belvedere, and this is where I'm putting on my internet sleuth or detective hat for a second here. Right before the Game Awards went live, we found out that Matt Booty made a bunch of comments and a bunch of statements via the Variety article that we talked about on Friday morning's Breakfast with Boom, right? And it was that moment then that I said, well, my prediction was wrong. There's no way they're going to show up and show out if they're announcing before the Game Awards that they have an official date for the January Developer Direct, 4th year in a row. So, okay, I was wrong. It's not a problem. I would have loved for them to show up and show out, but they didn't. So, it's fine. But interestingly enough, right after that, Fuzzy Belvedere, the official Gears of War Twitter account tweeted just this: emergence begins, period, 2026. Now, again, I'm speculating here, folks, right? I'm simply speculating. There's a chance that, based on what Matt Booty said, we're getting not only a developer direct for Forza Horizon 6 and Fable, because he said Playground was going to be represented there. He didn't specifically say one or the other, but it makes sense that both of those games are supposed to release next year. So if you're going to do one, you're probably going to do the other. Now, what that kind of does is it kind of gums up how many games they're going to show, because look, this show is, what is it, like $1.15, give or take? Maybe an hour and a half, but I don't think so. I'm thinking like just a pinch over an hour. Well, you're going to want to represent both of these games in a big way. Now, there is room, ladies and gentlemen, for a third game. Now, what I want to do is I'm going to pause this footage here, and I'm going to bring up a mock graphic that, now I made this, folks. I got a lot of really nice compliments from people. What I did using Canva is I put out a video on the conversation that we had on Friday's Breakfast at Boom. I cut it down, I edited it real nice, and I needed a thumbnail that would attract people's attention. And I took the original, one from a couple of years ago, and I overlaid it about 6 or 7 times. And as you can see, this everything on here are my designs. The Fable, the Forza, the Clockwork, and the scratch off thing. The scratch off. I did all of this. I got a lot of really nice compliments, except for one real ass. I almost cursed. Some a-hole told me that I used AI. I did not use AI. This took me about an hour to do, and I found all of the graphics and I put it together. Does it look real? Yeah, it kind of does. I actually like mine better than theirs, to be honest with you. I think they should hire me for that as well, but I probably won't get hired. So on a normal developer direct, you get anywhere between 4 and 5 games. By my graphic, it's Fable, Forza Horizon 6, and Clockwork Revolution. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. Those are all bomb-ass games. Like, if that's all you bring to the table, and I'm not even being facetious here. I'm not saying all to be like, funny. If that's what you brought for your developer direct, I don't think there's a person in this chat or they're going to watch this on the replay and be like, yeah, F you, Microsoft, you didn't bring enough. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying, Fuzzy? But look, I wrongfully predicted that Xbox was going to bookend 2025. They had an opening, incredible developer direct. And I thought, and I was wrong, folks. I got no problem admitting that. I thought that they were going to show up and show out at the Game Awards. And I even predicted they could show potentially OEM hardware. And I think they probably should have. But then again, talking with everyone in the chat and talking with the panel on Friday, I do believe this was one of those FU moments for Jeff Keighley. Like, I believe that they knew that they are no longer going to, have to do the dance for Keighley and what his show does. So they kept their toys to themselves. Well, Fuzzy Belvedere, and of course, Chaos Lounge. Welcome, brother. We'll bring you in a hot second. These are my thoughts, because if you are celebrating your 25th anniversary, we don't need to see Halo because we already did. We got there's 13 minutes of gameplay you can watch anywhere. It looks amazing. I can't wait. It's one of my most anticipated games. We haven't seen anything from Forza other than, like the panning garage announcement going from beginning to where it is now. So we didn't see anything. Fable, we saw some footage a couple of years ago, right? We got a chance to take a look at it. Looks amazing. Can't wait for it. Gameplay, incredible. Clockwork Revolution, we've seen a couple of times, looks really good. But what could fill in these other two spaces that I have on the screen for you here for? What could be there? Well, I think Gears of War E-Day is one of them. Now, I know there may be people in the chat say there's no way they're going to show this many games in one location. And you might be right about that, because I think Fable and Forza themselves are so big and they're such incredible franchises that they could logistically levy 30 minutes for each one of those, and I think nobody would have a problem. But before we bring in Chaos Lounge, Fuzzy, any additional thoughts on do you think could be here? Because they could be partnered games here as well.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily have to be Xbox first party, but they are celebrating their 25th anniversary. And I think if you're going to go big, why not start the year off going big?
Yeah. I have a bit of a left field prediction or theory. I think you nailed it with Fable and Forza Horizon 6 being there. No questions about it. Those are the two, with, basically Playground being the Obsidian of 26 kind of thing, even though it's just two games, but they're pretty big games. And I think we're all going to be happy with what they produce for 2026. Clockwork stands a really good chance. I'm starting to wonder if it's an early, like first 6 months, or if it's a later 6 months. I mean, they still show games that come later in the year, because Ninja Gaiden last year was shown at the Dev Direct at the beginning of the year, but it didn't come until September. So they can show titles that might be spread out throughout the year. So Clockwork stands a chance, but I think it might be a later release. And I'm kind of in a weird way, and this is going to probably sound silly, because we've heard some buzz about Forza Horizon 6 being a early release as opposed to its usual like October, November-ish kind of release. Shadow drop it. Like, just, hey, show you the game, and it's like you can download it today and play kind of thing. And I don't think you need to advertise for Forza Horizon like you probably could have with Hi-Fi Rush kind of thing. And I know there were people that were like, oh, that probably killed its full potential and so forth. No, I think Forza Horizon dropping, the same day that they show it, I think would be a way to break the internet, even if it's just for the first 6 months of the gameplay and stuff like that. But I think that would be pretty big. E-Day, because it's a 26 title, as Gears of War, X account or Twitter account made mention, as far as, like you said, Emergence Begins 2026. I wouldn't be surprised if that shows up as well. But the curveball, and I kind of hinted to it before, because they've done a partnership with Team Ninja, they've done a partnership with Square Enix. I think it's now Sega's time to do a partnership. Now, I know some people are like, no, you're not saying Persona 6. No, there's no way they would show that at this. They'll say Persona 6 for the June showcase. That's where it will have a better debut, much like the way Metaphor did its debut. I think Sega is ready to unveil its Super Game collection, or at least the first installment of it, which is probably going to be Golden Axe, Crazy Taxi, and Jet Set Radio.
Yes.
So I could see that. And since they're probably geared to be arcadey, like smaller games, much like they were when they originally released, I think we get to see those just before the last title, which is either E-Day or Clockwork. But I think E-Day gets the last spot, just because it's going to go into more depth on a lot of stuff. But I think we get to see the super game from Sega, which, like I said, Golden Axe, Crazy Taxi, Jet Set Radio. Probably one of them will be downloadable that day. I don't know if it makes it to Game Pass. I would hope the collection makes it to Game Pass, but in any event, I'm pretty sure a lot of us are going to buy the collection no matter what. But I think the first installment, at least one of those titles, might be playable that same day, and then the other ones will be spread out throughout the year. Like probably one just before June, or maybe a little after June, and then the last one will probably be like around the same time they release Ninja Gaiden 4, which would be September-ish or so. But yeah, I think that random card is Sega's turn to make their appearance as a partner Dev Direct, or at least as one of the partners in the Dev Direct, and then hit us with like not just one game, but like 3 games. And I think for, like you said earlier, if you're going to go big, what better way to go big on the Dev Direct to kick off the year, showing 4 of your titles and one of your partnered, one of your partners with, I guess, possibly 3+ titles. Yeah, I think that's the way you kick off the year and show that this anniversary means something, but not only to them, but to the fans and the the Xbox player base. And I think that'd be a great way to kick off the year.
You know something, brother? I don't know if you've ever been told you're brilliant, but you're brilliant. Here's why. Who was one of the more important aspects or developers that helped launch the Xbox back in the days? It was Sega.
Yeah.
Sega put out a ridiculous amount of games, including Jet Set Radio. That was, for all intents purposes, an exclusive and a really big one at the time. So you might be actually onto something outside of its time for Sega. Who was one of the pinnacle developers? That was Sega. Dude, that's phenomenal work. I did not even equate that. Well, listen, great work all around so far. Chaos Lounge. Let's bring you in on this conversation. Look, Gears of War E-Day has a shot to be at this Dev Direct in January. Now, what are the chances? Well, my evidence that I bring up to the court is the fact that right after the announcement of the Dev Direct, the Twitter account, for the official Twitter account for Gears of War E-Day, posted that it's coming out in 2026. Now, look, I'm gonna be honest with you. We all kind of knew that already, but the fact that they, dropped that info right after the Matt Booty Variety interview, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of like peanut butter and jelly. It just kind of goes together. And again, folks, if you're gonna start off a celebratory year with this being the first show of 2026, right? It's the Xbox show. All eyes are going to be on this show. You know why all eyes are going to be on this show? Well, because some of these games, Gears of War E-Day, are probably releasing on PlayStation. Now, I know that, there's been some talk about that not happening. There's also been talk from like Paris Lilly, who said that he has heard that is launching day and date. I don't know. And honestly, folks, I don't care. I just want to play Gears of War E-Day on my Series X. That's what I want to do. And I know that they're celebrating the 20th anniversary of this franchise. I want to get your thoughts on this. What do you think there's a shot that not only Playground will bring both of their new IPs expected to release next year in the form of Fable and Forza Horizon 6, but also getting potentially Gears of War E-Day and potentially others to be at this Dev Direct? What are your thoughts, Chaos Lounge?
So, I think Gears will be there. I also don't think it's going to be day and date. They said the same thing about Forza Horizon 6, and that's already been confirmed that it's not day and date.
Mm-hmm.
So they were wrong with that one. Halo campaign involved makes sense going everywhere because it's not a new entry in the franchise. It's basically a remaster, kind of remake kind of thing. The same thing they did with The Last of Us, which went everywhere day one, right? In terms of PC and PlayStation, it wasn't a timed exclusive in any way, shape, or form. So I think Gears will definitely not be day and date. But the one thing that I think they're going to do, if they're planning on going big in 2026, I think they are going to tease the actual console, the new console that's coming. Because what makes sense to me is tease it at the start of the year, show it at the summer showcase, and then put it on sale by the end of the year during the November period where it makes sense. Aaron Greenberg also said that there's way too many games to fit inside this presentation, so they're only going to cherry pick the ones that they want to show, and then the rest looks like it's going to be for the end of the year. So I think Gears will be there. I think it's a bit too early for Banjo, as much as people want to hear Banjo Kazooie, but we've already heard Moon Studio saying that they're willing to take up the mantle to do it. So it's just a case of, them dotting the lines and agreeing on the sum and licensing fees and whatnot to get that done. So yeah, I think Gears will be there. I think we're going to see a big surprise for a game that we didn't no one is really anticipating. I think one of the slots is going to be for that one. We haven't really heard much from that Sega Super game, so this may be a good place, because if you remember when the original Xbox launched, it was technically supposed to be the Dreamcast 2. Right? That's why Shenmue in the US was only available on the Xbox. It wasn't available on the Dreamcast, and that's why you had all the other exclusive games from Sega going to Xbox only, until things, I'm guessing, didn't work out and they decided to go their separate ways. And yeah, so I think the Sega Super game, I think, will be 50-50. I think, well, I'm more 30-70 of it not going. But Gears will definitely be there. I can't see any reason for that not being there. I think they're going to show you some behind the scenes of Halo, because don't forget, this isn't a trailer showcase. This is a dev direct.
Right.
So the developers are basically going to be talking about, what they've been doing with this stuff as well. But one other game that seems to have slipped a lot of people's minds is Final Fantasy VII Remake. And we haven't really seen much of that. Now, I've played it on Xbox, and it plays really well, but we haven't really seen much of it in terms of it working on anywhere else. I've only seen it on the Series X, not the Series S. So maybe they'll do a little segment for that as a partner showing to push that game for Square Enix as well, because that's going to land in January as well. Might even be shadow dropped. That's like a really good game to shadow drop at the Dev Direct. You've seen it here. Go buy it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Again, I think.
Oh, will it have been released? Oh, never mind.
I mean, you're not wrong. I definitely think you're onto something, and I think you bring up you and Fuzzy, for that matter, bring up a good point as to why Gears could be there, and probably should be there. It is going to be a big part of the celebratory year of next year, because they're celebrating their 20th anniversary. And look, this is just me spitballing, folks. And I could be 1,000% wrong, though I don't think I am. I think that, when you hear Aaron Greenberg and you start hearing Matt Booty talk about how they are just stacked with games, we all know. Look, you don't need to be a content creator or a journalist to put what is easily attainable in front of you. Gears, Forza, Halo, Clockwork, Modern Warfare 4. That's 5. That's 5 megaton games to come out for the 20th anniversary of Xbox. The 3 pillars, and you can even consider Fable a pillar, because obviously it's an OG title. So you can say 4 pillars releasing. Now, again, I know that people like Colt Eastwood and a few others have heard that, it may slip until 27. But I don't know. Again, I don't have the connections that he does, and we don't have certainly the same connections and run in the same circles. But That's what he heard. I know he made mention on that in XNC with Mag. I looked for that information and no one has told that to me. And the reason why I'm kind of steadfast in thinking that Fable is going to release next year, because it was supposed to release this year. And Craig Duncan came out and said, no, we want to give the team more time to work on the game. And like Fuzzy said earlier, we have heard from people like Nate the Hate, who, of course, has gotten things wrong, but has also gotten a lot of things right, that Forza Horizon 6 is expected to release first half. Now, I know some people said early. He said first half, meaning that anytime between January and June. Now, if that, in fact, is the case, Fable has all of that time until the fall of next year to get everything right for its release. Now, I don't know if a year is enough for the team, but they've been working on this game for quite some time. And what we've seen so far looks really freaking good. So who knows? Look, I again, this is one of those conversations that can go a lot of ways. I'm very happy with the way it went. I do think that if you and I before we get on out of here, I know we got to read a couple of super chats we got here. I do want to pose a question, to the panel before we get on out, because this is one of the smaller shows, and again, there's not a lot of news, but there's enough news to have podcasts, and we will have one every day this week. Once we get towards the end of the week, folks, I'm going to give you the schedule for the remainder of the year. A lot of the second half of the weeks, the next upcoming weeks, there's not going to be any shows because it's Christmas, it's New Year's, there's a lot going on, and I have family coming in. So I will give you all the dates that we will be going live on those next couple of weeks. But it's going to be vacation time for a lot of people, not only on the panel but myself as well. But Fuzzy, I'll start first with you. My question to you is not what's going to be there, right? We have an idea that there are a few games, we've talked about it. But my question to you and to Chaos Lounge and to the chat, being that this is in fact the 25th anniversary of Xbox, and we already know that it's going to be a big year for the brand, not only for some of the games that are coming out, but we could get some hardware announcements like Chaos Lounge said. My question to you, if you are working with Tina Amini, who is producing this show, which is, by the way, and I've said this before, and I'm not ashamed to say it again, one of the best hires Xbox has done in the last 5 years. Like, ever since she came over from IGN, whatever magic that she uses, and again, I mention her by name because I don't know her team, but she has an incredibly talented team that works with her on these projects. And whatever magic that they have been producing some of the best Xbox shows in a really long time. So, jokingly, she said on social media that she may or may not be working on this, but of course we know that she is. My question to you is, look, I don't think Xbox is ever going to get out from under the thumb of the gaming community. I just don't. I don't think they could cure cancer tomorrow, and someone within the gaming community will ask, why didn't you cure it faster? Right? There'd be a complaint. But that goes for the games media as well. Mm-hmm. If you look at what they've done this year, they released 13 games, man, a baker's dozen. Some are remakes, some titles are smaller than others, but you got to admit that they put out an incredible amount of content, and that's not even counting all of the big bombs that dropped into Game Pass, like Expedition 33, Silksong, Blueprints. It just, the list goes on and on.
Yeah.
My question to you is that this is the start of a celebratory year. How big do you go if you're working on Tina's team? And should this be one of the biggest dev directs they've ever put together? That's my closing question to you guys.
That's a tough one because, like I was saying earlier with the Sega thing, I think you do start off with a big bang, but you don't use all your bullets in the chamber kind of thing. Like you want to kick off the year to catch everybody's attention, but you're still saving one or two big announcements either for your June showcase or for later in the year. I think this will be a bigger presentation, whether it's more games or it's more in depth as far as what people have been asking. Um, I think we get a a bigger show. Now, if it's a full hour or hour and a half, that I think it could wind up being that. Especially if you wind up doing the deeper dive on something like Gears of War E Day and stuff. I think this is going to be, I wouldn't say it's not even about make or break. I think this is going to be what's going to catch everybody's attention, and why I've always been saying throughout this year, tackle that backlog, because I'm pretty sure there's going to be more than a couple games that you're going to see in this dev direct that you're going to want to play, and you're either going to need to clear room on your SSD, or you're going to have to hurry up and get through your backlog to at least tackle some of the newer titles. But I think they do go big, but not so grandiose that everything else is a downward slide. I think this is like the way you start off the party and everybody's dancing and having a good time. And there might be some lulls in between. Like we'll get probably a game in January and maybe not one in February, and then we'll get one in March or something like that. That'll be the extent of the lull, but there'll be something in Game Pass that'll catch everybody's attention. But I think this will ramp up compared to other dev directs, but it won't reach what they're going to unveil on the June showcase. I think the June showcase is going to be where they put everything on the table, kind of thing, until they get to the anniversary month. Which, with November being the anniversary month, I think the June showcase is where you give us a little bit more insight on what to expect come that time frame. And they'll still probably have a couple of surprises up their sleeve come November, but I think this will be one of their bigger dev directs. And if the Sega Super game makes the appearance, that plays right into it.
Man, that's a smart play, man. And I do love that. I love the Sega connection. I love it because it's so important to what made Xbox 360's launch a success, right? Like it was, and that's the other thing. The Xbox 360 had a great launch. Sega was a part of it. The OG Xbox had a ridiculous amount of Sega games. It really would be like one of those circle the wagon moments. I think that's just brilliant. Chaos Sounds, let's bring you in, man. Again, we have a feeling it's going to be a great jumping off point for Xbox in 26. We have an idea, or at least a confirmation from Matt Booty, that Playground Games is going to be well represented. Now, he didn't specifically say one or the other, but it's safe. And again, I'm assuming here, and I don't want to make an ass out of you and me, but I'm just assuming that they're going to bring both to the table, because both of those games are expected to launch next year. What are your thoughts? How big do you think Tina Amini and her team need to go to start this celebratory 2026?
So with the Dev Direct, I think they're gonna tease a lot of things. They're gonna drop those big games to show them that they're coming this year. But I don't think they're gonna go all out. I think where they're gonna go all out is the June showcase.
Yeah.
That's where they're gonna throw everything in the kitchen sink at it. And I think they kind of need to, just to respect the Xbox fans. It's a big milestone for Xbox, and Microsoft just needs to show that they respect the player base, they respect their fans for sticking with them, and they are giving this is what it means to be an Xbox fan, an Xbox customer. These are the games that you're getting. We're providing all of this, and as we know, a lot of those games are going to be on Game Pass. They're going to be on Play Anywhere, so they're really going to push out, and that's why I think that having a teaser at the Dev Direct for the console makes sense. Just a small teaser to indicate that it's coming, and then have like a massive reveal. Like if they were ever going to do it, that's the place. I also like the fact that they did not show up at Jeff Keighley's showcase after the last 2 years of disrespect. I also feel like the $1 million for 3 minutes of airtime is crazy, but I think they learned a valuable lesson with the Indiana Jones reveal that they did with the One More Thing, the way Jeff really stuck that knife in deliberately. So I think they really learned a valuable lesson there. But hey, they did sneak in the South of Midnight being released on other platforms without having to pay Jeff Keighley for that. That was free promotion, free advertising for 6 million people right there. And that's a win for their case. And, more power to them. But yeah, I think in terms of the Dev Direct, we are going to see the behind the scenes, as the saying goes, how the sausage is made
Mm-hmm.
for a lot of these games. And we're going to get potentially some dates, potentially a shadow drop. I reckon we will get a shadow drop because it is the 25th anniversary. So they want to start it off with excitement by showing some big games. But I think the June showcase is the one we are going to be wowed over. The one that we had a couple years ago that was just mind blowing. It had everything.
Yeah.
We're going to get something, I reckon, bigger than that. And that's where I'm at with that right now. I think, the Dev Direct, keep your expectations in check. It's going to be good, but the real event, the main event, is June. And I think we're going to get a lot of surprises, a lot of big drop reveals during that showcase. It's the 25th anniversary, man. You go big or go home. And
Yep.
if there's ever a time for you to, show up and turn around and say, we are here, that's it. I mean, just look at it. They announced one exclusive game yesterday, and all the ponies went mental. It's like they announced Amiibo is exclusive to the Xbox console. Like, oh, but it's not exclusive; it's on PC. And it's like, yeah, but so it's like 90% of your games. So what are you talking about? But they went crazy over that. So maybe we're going to see a return to this sort of strategy as well, where they're finally going to outline games that are coming to Xbox will be exclusive to the ecosystem for a year or 6 months or whatever it is before they go forward to kind of try and push their ecosystem as well. So it'll be interesting to see how they go about it this June. But I think the June event is the main event. The one that we're going to see is just an appetizer where it's going to reveal some big games. I mean, even technically, Halo could be there as well while they talk about, what's happening in the background, how it was made, what they've been doing, how Unreal Engine has supported them. Because essentially, it's putting the developers first.
Yeah.
But I think in between there, you're going to see the sprinkled teasers that are going to come about. That's going to be the kind of setting stone for what's coming in June to build that hype and expectation. And I think, all teams are going to be guns blazing. I mean, they have to. It's the 25th anniversary. If they don't, it's going to be very disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, look, we all knew this was happening, so I agree with you. I don't think they're going to disappoint. Honestly, I know a lot of people like, yeah, they've done it before. Listen, you only hit the 25th anniversary once, right? That's the reality.
Exactly.
I agree with you. I think they are going to. I mean, look, someone actually, Sinestral J said in the chat, "What's up, brother? Thanks so much for being here." He says, "Hot take: maybe Xbox will have 2 directs." I've been saying this for a while, especially, when you consider this particular year. But the question is, where do you pepper these shows in? Because they have for the last couple of years had their opening salvo every January. This is now going to be the 4th January in a row where Dev Direct is happening. This one is going to be big and special because it's the 20th anniversary and they want to get everyone hyped, right? So there's going to be a lot of big games shown. They're going to be showcasing Playground Games, probably both of their games because they're going to be there. Could Clockwork show up? Sure. Do I believe Gears is going to be there? Absolutely. Halo just had its big reveal at the Halo Championships. A couple of like 1 or 2 months ago, and they showed 13 minutes of footage, which looked freaking amazing. So I don't necessarily know. Now, granted, for the June showcase, I think maybe they give us a preview into the 3 new missions with Sergeant Johnson, which I freaking can't wait. but June is going to be big. The question is, between January and June, if you were going to have another Dev Direct, do you have that chalk in the middle, right? January, February, March. Do you put that somewhere at the end of March, early April? I'm not exactly sure, but they have so many games coming out this year. Maybe they need another one, because again, the fall is loaded. Like, once you get to the summer, once the June showcase happens, Xbox is off to the races, because then you have Gamescom. Then you have the Tokyo Game Show in September. You also have PAX. PAX, well, there's a multitude of PAX, but PAX East, the big one here that's in Boston, is usually around either right before or right after Easter, right? So, of course, you have, Gamescom, you have Tokyo Game Show, you got the summer event, you have Jeff Keighley's show next December. So they're going to have an opportunity to see, to show the world what they're working with. But I this is just me thinking, I like it when Xbox controls their own narrative, meaning that they produce their own shows with people from Xbox like Tina Amini and her team. When they are producing the shows, they are telling the audience what they want. You're not going to get any side commentary from anybody that's there, like Jeff Keighley did with the whole, you mentioned it earlier, like the Indiana Jones debacle, right? Like he loved himself for doing that. And I think you're onto something. And I said it earlier before you got to KS Lounge. I think that what we saw was this was one of those big FU moments, not literally, because they are still partnered. Like, Xbox does work with Jeff. I mean, they did have a very overly produced Game Pass commercial that was very reminiscent of the Xbox 360 days, kind of like the Xboxer that everyone got all bent out of shape for. I'm going to be honest with you. Probably because I'm an old man, I actually really liked all of those crazy, you like, the guy is sitting in the cold. You think he's standing on line, but back in the days, and it was something else. The Xboxer, everyone got so bent out of shape about that. It's so stupid. I don't like it. I listen, I'm an old man, so that's probably why I liked it, because it reminded me of the Xbox 360 days. But that's fine. Look, at the end of the day, I am here for it. I think everyone in this chat is here for it. I think everybody on this panel is here to see Xbox deliver a killer year, and their lineup, even if something like Fable does get delayed, which I'm not going to lie to you, I'd be incredibly disappointed. I really want to play that game. But if they had to delay it, it just is what it is. We are going to be fed really well. And mind you, I don't think it starts and stops with the 5 games that we mentioned, right? I think it's going to go further. But listen, let me catch up with the super chats. We have 2 of them here. Well, we actually have gifted sub and a super chat here from Elemental PO, who drops a very generous $5 super chat. He says, "Happy Monday, gamers. I'm loving the Terminator 2D, an excellent arcade scroller." Apologies for that while the fire engine goes by. I don't know if you guys and gals heard that, but it's so annoying. But anyway, Elemental PO goes on to say this after dropping a very generous $5 super chat. "Happy Monday, gamers. I'm loving the Terminator 2D, an excellent arcade side scroller. I can't wait to try out the Pragmata demo on the Ally X tonight." Well, good luck with that, brother. I'm just going to wait for that. I know that the demo is available now. Game looks dope. It's Capcom. They very rarely miss. It's a little weird, sure, but I'm here for it, because I'm here for that Capcom weirdness. We have a gifted sub from who else? None other than Nino Vostik, our generous friend all the way from Hawaii, who has once again gifted 1 double barrel gaming membership. So, of course, thank you so much for the generosity, as he pretty much does every show. So thank you for that, brother. Super appreciate you being here. A big thank you to well over 300 people watching this show. And I know everyone's hustling, bustling. It's that time of the year, folks. We know that we're not going to get as many views or many people in the chat, because there's a lot going on in the world, and everyone's trying to make the holidays their own. So, of course, a lot of the conversations that you're starting to see here on the live shows are being dissected by yours truly and produced into video formats that are more, 20-minute, 30-minute digestible videos. And I've been getting a lot of really, really, really good positive feedback for that. So, of course, if you missed the show live, you don't have, nearly 90 minutes to sit down and watch the show. I do produce all of these shows on the back end through video content, and it goes up that make it much easier to listen to. But gentlemen, I appreciate you both being here. Chat, I appreciate you, of course, helping the channel out financially through super chats, channel member chats, and of course, the Double Barrel Gaming subs, both gifted and through just regular membership. We do appreciate it very much, and they do help us do the big giveaways. And folks, we do have one happening this Friday, ladies and gentlemen. That's right. Next Thursday is Christmas. Of course, we're not having a show Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday because we're going to be taking the time off to kind of just enjoy the holidays. But what will be happening this Friday at 10 a.m. is, of course, the annual Christmas with Mr. and Mrs. Boomstick. And we are giving away, ladies and gentlemen, $500 worth of digital prizes. And guess what? You don't even have to be subbed to the channel to win. All you got to do is be in the chat. I'm going to put a hashtag that's currently under lock and key, and it's going to be dropped into the chat early in that morning. And all you got to do is be in the chat when I announce your name live. And if you are, well, you'll win one of the 10 digital prizes that we're giving away. And they're all going to be $50 gift cards. You know what? What we're going to do is normally we've been just giving away Xbox gift cards because it's the holidays, and maybe somebody will use one of these gifts or one of these prizes as a gift. We're going to give you the choice of where your gift card is. Nintendo eShop, PlayStation Network, Steam, or Xbox. You make the call, and we will deliver it to you via email, DM, or I should say, if you are someone that lives outside of the United States, we will send you your winnings via PayPal only. We don't do cash apps. We don't do any other bank transfers or anything like that. And that's to keep our account safe and sound. And if you win, you don't have to pay anything. We pay all the transfer fees, and we get that money to you via PayPal because that is safe for us. We're one of the few YouTube channels that actually honor winners outside of the United States, and which is why we only or mostly do digital prizes, because obviously physically trying to send something across the pond, for instance, it's going to cost an arm and a leg. That's why we do digital. But we also have here Music 72 has been a channel member for 14 months. So, brother, thank you so much for that. He says Friday. Indeed. Just be in the chat Friday, and you have a shot of one of 10 digital prizes to your favorite platform, ladies and gentlemen. But that's going to do it for us. Fuzzy Belvedere, let's sell the brand. This Friday, I would imagine that you're going to have a new episode of Fright Night with Ferocious Fee. And as we get closer to Christmas, maybe Black Christmas, maybe one of those Christmas murder spree type of slasher events that you're going to be talking about. Well, of course, you can find your best horror discussions on Friday with Fright Night with Ferocious Fee, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Sell the brand, brother. Where can people subscribe to the YouTube channel, check out those BD and sometimes even Z type of movies, and more importantly, follow you guys on social media?
Oh, as always, love doing this podcast on Monday afternoons with you, and always great time when we have Chaos Lounge on here as well. Love hearing your thoughts and theories on everything in the gaming industry, and just basically talking about this hobby we all enjoy. Love interacting with the chat. You guys are awesome, but make sure clear that backlog. Like I said, this has been one heck of a year for gaming, and next year stands to be even bigger. So start clearing those backlog games. Start, especially if you're a Game Pass subscriber, start playing, or make sure you've at least come close to 1,000 gamer score on those titles leaving the service and stuff. Definitely enjoy whatever free time you have with some gaming and some friends, and the rest just kind of falls into place. For my horror fans, we're going to have a weird movie to discuss for the holidays, and it's not a horror movie. And it started with a discussion in our chat. We're probably going to talk about Die Hard, and I know some people are on the fence of it. If it is a holiday movie, some are on the fence saying it's not. I'm on the fence that it is a holiday movie because of where it takes place and some of the visuals in the film. But we'll be discussing that on, I think it's not this Friday, but next Friday. This Friday, I'm not sure what fee is picked out, but the link is in the chat. So go ahead, click the link, subscribe to the channel, hang out with us on Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Like Boom said, sometimes we occasionally will do a modern movie, like a double A or triple A movie, but there's a lot of them that are C, D, and E kind of movies. What was it? Thanksgiving was one of those where you could tell it was on
is so bad it's good.
I mean, it's like puppets and a small budget. So yeah, you can have a lot of fun with stuff like that. But yeah, it's always a great time. Come hang out with us. But all in all, have a great week. Play some games and less social media, because social media takes away from your gaming time. So there's that.
Yeah, I mean, social media is going to be what it is. I have, if you've noticed, I have conversations, but I have pulled back from social media, not because I'm like being bothered or anything. It's just, look, I have a nice timeline. It's just that I don't have enough time in the day to play games. I'm not going to waste that on, spending 3 hours on social media. I go through it. You see me talk and tweet about, of course, the live shows and when I put videos up. And I like to help other, shout out other creators and their work. When WBG goes, I like to put their work out there. When Fuzzy, when of course, anyone I work with, Jamie Moran, I want to do. That's when you'll see me doing a lot of posting. But it's exhausting, ladies and gentlemen. It just really is. It can be exhausting. So of course I'm going to play as many games as I can. I'm playing like 3 right now, which I hate, but I'm really, really enjoying it. But Chaos Lounge, that's how the brand, brother. Where could people subscribe to your YouTube channel? Because you do a lot of videos, a lot of solo work, and when you get people over there to subscribe, where could people subscribe to your YouTube channel? But more importantly, follow you on social media.
First of all, thanks so much for having me on here. I really do enjoy being on here. I do try to get here earlier, but work permitting.
That's real life, brother. It's all right.
But I really do enjoy being on here, and I try to be here as much as I can. So thank you so much to yourself and Fuzzy for having me on here. You can find me over at the youtube.com/Chaos Lounge. That is where I cover mainly gaming news. I cover a lot of Xbox stuff, but I do cover the odd few Nintendo stuff there, PlayStation stuff. But I cover mainly the ongoing gaming news. I totally agree with you on the whole Twitter thing. It's becoming exhausting at this point. I can't post a single thing without a bunch of ponies just rushing out. I mean, the latest one with that exclusive game where I questioned Xbox. We're doing exclusives now. They come out and started using Wukong of all games, which was the scummiest deal going around of all time. But they tried to use that against me, and they all came out of woodworks like, sheep in a barn. But you can find me on social media where I do try to be a lot more positive at Chaos Prime Z. And also I've now started my own TikTok, which is a Chaos Lounge TT, if you want to follow me there, where I just upload shorts and stuff to get around. But essentially, if you want like gaming news or just news for the day or just anything like that, feel free to drop by my channel and have a look and see if you like it. And if you do, feel free to subscribe.
Well, appreciate that very much. Again, we love having you here. When you have the time, join us. When you can't, it's okay. Real life is always going to trump podcasting because, obviously it's real life. But appreciate you being here. Fuzzy, appreciate you being here as well. Chat, appreciate you even more for hanging out with us and tuning in for each and every live stream. And again, there will be 4 additional live streams this week. We're going to be doing Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday work. Next week and the week after are going to be short weeks for the podcasts. Even if I got to show up myself because people are out, traveling or different things, I'll put a couple of topics together that will be originally written topics. And maybe I can get, a guest or three, but yeah, both Monday and Tuesday of next week and the week after, we will have live streams at their same times, but the Wednesday and Thursday and Friday dates for next week and the week after are days that we're not going to be live. But of course, we'll go over that once again, so no one's, caught with their, broadside that, hey, where's the shows? Because, we want to take off and enjoy ourselves as well. It's the holidays. We have family coming in, and it's, it's time to, it's that time of year for us to recharge our batteries as well. But ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for us here. Of course, I want to, for Fuzzy Belvedere and the Chaos Lounge, I want to thank you so much for checking out today's show. We super appreciate you guys and gals hitting the like button. And of course, if you're feeling incredibly extra generous, share this on the socials, let people know about Double Barrel Gaming, and of course, the Xbox podcasts that we do, because next year is going to be a party town for Xbox, and I cannot wait to be a part of it. But of course, I'm going to close the show with something that's incredibly important to me, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully one day be important to you, and that's something that my dad taught us when we were kids, and he would say, Craig, treat others how you want to be treated, and also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, son. I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. We'll see you next week on the newest episode of the Xbox Lunch Break Special.